everyone. Again, this is Mom Earl, and today we will be discussing another topic entitled Methods of Teaching Grammar. These are the objectives for this lesson. The first one, identify different methods in teaching grammar, and of course, design lessons applying specific methods in teaching grammar. So there are questions here, and you may just comment down your answers upon viewing this. So why doesn't grammar instruction improve writing? The first question is, what does the research say? What are isolated skill drills? How should we teach writing? And what about teaching convention? Now, there are different methods of teaching grammar. So what are those? English grammar is notoriously difficult to learn for both native and second language speakers. There are so many intricacies, obscures, and exceptions that it comes as no surprise that different generations of teachers have used various approaches to teaching grammar to train literate English writers. In the past, memorization-based techniques that relied on repetition slowly gave way to more creative methods. Today, we live in a society that prizes literacy and is willing to adapt to more effective methods to achieve the best results in teaching grammar. Indeed, teaching and learning grammar can create anxieties and frustrations to both teachers and learners. Hence, when teachers don't exactly know how much to manage a grammar class and students can barely learn from teachers, grammar teaching and learning would be disastrous. And as a future English teachers, it is important that you are well versed with different methods of teaching grammar to promote better language learning among students and, of course, to develop a sense of fulfillment in your role as grammar teachers. There are several methods that can help us make our grammar lessons a lot more interesting and fun. Okay, so let's find out what are those. Sentence diagramming is vulnerable for both English grammar students and teachers. To put in a diagram, words in sentences forces the learners to identify the logical connections between different parts of the sentence. And it is a form of sentence analysis, which techniques requiring one to take the sentence apart and show relationship of each word to the rest of the sentence. All right, so this is a kind of there is a sort of difficulties, especially if we don't know what would be the components of the sentence that we have to identify first in order for us to do or proceed the sentence diagramming. Well, sentence diagramming is a visualizing how to fit together the sentence or the different parts of a sentence. The subject of a clause goes in one slot only, while the verb in another, and so on. So words modify another word are attached to the word they modify. There are given examples here. The farmers gave their kids fresh vegetables. Okay, so how are we going to do a sentence diagramming with the given sentence? So Here it goes. The farmers gave, okay, their kids fresh vegetables. Okay, so we will learn, or you will be learning, how are you going to diagram a sentence, okay, later. So this one, another example. So diagram format components of a sentence. So we have here the subject and verb. Okay, so you are going to identify the subject and verb, and under that there are also prepositions, the object, the article, adjective, preposition, object of preposition. So it depends on the sentence construction. Okay, so in here the sentence is children in the preschool classroom now after lunch. So how are we going to diagram the sentence? So first you have to identify the components in the sentence. So what are those? It could be the subject, the verb, okay, are there prepositions, okay, and what so on, okay. uh, A sentence diagram is a pictorial representation of the grammatical structure of a sentence. The term sentence diagram is used more when teaching written language, where sentences are diagrammed. Of course, so sentence diagramming is applied in written sentences, because how are we going to diagram a sentence if we are just uh, talking, if we are just taking it orally, right? So it starts with a horizontal line. So we can diagram a sentence to show its structure and to see how its parts are related. So in the given sentence, we can diagram a sentence. So this one, artist paint. So that is a simple sentence. So how are we going to diagram? So of course, write the simple subject and verb on the line. If the sentence is given already, so find what is the subject and what is the verb. So this sentence is artist paint. Alright, so you are going to separate them with a vertical line that crosses the base line. The next one, birds are singing. Alright, so again, you're going to identify where's the subject and where's the verb. Birds are singing. So write the simple subject and verb on the line. Separate them with a vertical line that crosses the baseline. Another example. So describing the verb, or it could be with prepositional phrase or phrases. So in the given sentence, talented artist paint. Alright, so talented artist paints. The word talented describes the artist. Alright, and then write it on a diagonal line below the word it describes. That's why it looks like that. Okay, talented artist paint. The word talented is the one describing artist, who is our subject. Next is pedagogical issues. It refers to issues in teaching grammar, and one of these is if grammar should be taught, and if so, what grammar, when, and how. This serves as the valuable purpose of problematizing this aspect of language pedagogy. Another example is that talented artists paint realistic pictures of people. So how are we going to diagram? So again, you are going to look first for the subject and verb. And then what do artists paint pictures of? Okay, so what does the artist is doing? Or what kind of artist is we are talking about? Okay, of people describes the pictures. Write it on a frame under pictures, so it looks like that. Talented artists paint realistic pictures of people. All right, so how do you diagram sentences? Here are the basic rules. The first one, identify the sentence elements. So again, the sentence elements, as I've said a while ago, it could be the subject and the verb. Okay, you are going to identify if there are object of the prepositions, okay, something like that. Next, place the subject, verb, and direct object together and underline them. Third, separate the subject from the verb with a vertical line that crosses the underline. Fourth, separate the subject from the verb with a vertical line that does not cross the underline. And lastly, keep adjectives and articles with the noun they modify and place them on separate diagonal lines touching the word they modify. Okay, if you are still confused, so go back, okay, to the first sentences or to the first samples given a while ago. Next, let's move on to the second one, learning through writing to learn. All right, so writing can provide us with a unique opportunity to develop critical thinking skills. And language also provides us with a unique way of knowing and becomes a tool for discovering, for shaping meaning, and for teaching understanding. Example, the reading journal. All right, so there are different kinds of reading materials. Okay, there are websites, there are printed materials, of course, soft copy materials. Okay, and there are even more. Okay, available in the internet. So your test. Diagramming sentences. So you are going to diagram the following sentences. The first one, Heidi Masaya left quickly. The second one, a scary dog barked loudly. And the third one, a student started with a blank page. And for letter B, learning through writing, of course, you are going to associate what have you learned about grammar. All right. So acrostic associations. Acrostic are simple poems whereby each letter of a word or phrase begins a new line in the poem. With that, you are going to write your own acrostic of your last name. Again, your last name. You are going to create own acrostic about the topic, or think of your own topic, okay, using your last name. The third one is inductive teaching. So what is about this? Step 1, present several examples that illustrate a particular concept. Step 2, students must observe how the concept works from these examples. Step 3, concept must not be explained beforehand. Step 4, students are expected to recognize the rule of grammar in a more natural way. So when we say inductive teaching, the main goal of the inductive teaching method is the retention of grammar concepts with teachers using techniques that are known to work cognitively and make an impression on students' contextual memory. How about inductive teaching? So it focuses on instruction before practice. So step 1, a teacher gives an in-depth explanation of grammatical concept before students could encounter the same grammatical concept in their own writing. Step 2, after the lesson, students practice what they have just been shown through worksheets and exercises. Alright, this will go to the exercises that you will be dealing with this. This is a sort of deductive teaching. Well, deductive teaching, anyways, is a type of teaching has many people rethink such methods as more post-secondary level students are revealing. So, subpart literacy in adulthood, deductive teaching methods drive many students away from teaching because of the rise of rote learning and teacher-centered approaches. Next, let's take interactive teaching. So I think this also falls on the Socratic method, right? The Q&A. This method allows teacher to tailor their lessons to the different learning styles of students. For instance, each student can be given a large flashcard with a word on it, and the students themselves must physically arrange this into a proper sentence. Other games can include word puzzles or fun online quizzes. The sixth one is functional notional approach. Okay, so what is about this? When designing a lesson, teachers often choose a real world situation as their notion and choose corresponding functions to teach to prepare students to communicate in that situation in the lesson. Example, a lesson might be about how to buy something at a shop, in which case its notion is shopping and one of its functions might be asking prices. Okay, so that is functional. There is something that you need to either read or go through in order for you to learn something, okay, or use the language. Seventh, situational context. So, according to Franklin, Redman, and Helms 2011, they said that context can be linguistic and situational. Linguistic context, in a sense, is that about information that was formally written or spoken. It could be situational context if general knowledge that a person has of the world. Next, using text, stories, songs, and rhymes. There are different ways of using songs in the classroom. The level of the students, the interest, and the age of the learners, the grammar point to be studied, and the song itself had determinant roles in the procedure. Apart from them, it mainly depends on the creativity of the teacher on how he or she incorporates the lesson or the song, for example, in a specific lesson. At the primary level of singing the song, the prosodic features of the language is being emphasized. And at the higher levels, where the practice of points is at the foreground, songs can be used with several techniques. Now, let's take some examples like gap fills or closed text. Alright, focus questions, true or false statements, put these lines into the correct sequence, dictation, add a final verse, circle the antonyms or synonyms of the given words, and discuss. 9. So, what is triple P? Alright, is it Alright. A deductive approach often fits into a lesson structure known as triple P, presentation, practice, production. Okay, so that is the meaning of triple P. Not pinaasa, pinangakuan, at pinaikot-ikot. Alright, you know, have the new meaning of triple P. Well, the teacher presents the target language and then gives students the opportunity to practice it through very controlled activities. Next, presentation. It involves building a situation that requires a natural and logical use of a new language. It is the presentation stage that students know what they learn and why. Practice involves testing the procedure so students can be familiar with the language. In this stage, students will be provided with the activities that can make them use the new language. The production stage being the most important stage where students here shall have made the transition from learners to becoming users of the language. In this stage, involves creating situations using the language that was introduced in the presentation to help the student communicate meaning using the new language. All right. So let's proceed to the modes of teaching grammar. Students must be familiar about the use of structures so that they will understand. And as according to Larson Freeman 2002 and to 2014, maintaining that students must know about the use of the structures so that they will understand the consequences of their choices, because the grammatical system offers its users choices in how they wish to realize meanings and positions themselves ideologically and socially. So that is about the linguistic mode. Therefore, grammar teaching should not only for understanding the rules, okay, should not only for understanding the rules, but also for inducing the reasons of different sentence formation in different contexts, scenarios, or situations. Next, a grammar lesson is not complete without an application stage. Alright, so as you observe in every discussion, you have to undergo several tests or activities, okay, in order for you to learn the target language or to apply what you have learned. According to Earl 1988, he shared that application is believed to require volume and repetition. That is, learners need to be given adequate opportunities to use the items to be learned as much as possible. So that is a storytelling mode where teachers should help learners make the leap from form-focused accuracy to meaning-focused fluency after explicit instructions by providing a variety of practice activities that will familiarize the learners with structure in context, giving practice or practice both in form and communicative meaning. So here's your test, micro teaching or demo lecture. So you're going to create a lesson design of any grammatical structure of your choice. Okay, so based on what we have discussed in this presentation, and you're going to perform an online teaching demo or voice recorded teaching demonstration. Okay, so just like what I am doing right now. Okay, just a part of the lesson that you have designed, and then only a portion segment of the lesson will be presented to substantiate their discussion. Okay, so that we will see, or you also experience, okay, how to do this. Okay, practicing your grammar. So how far you have learned? All right. This is what micro teaching cycle comes. Okay, so how are you going to create your own? So the first step is plan. Of course, you have to plan what would be your topic and how are you going to do it. Okay, how are you going to present it? Is it via video presentation or voice recorded? And then teach. How are you going to teach? Okay, based on what we have discussed, there are different methods and how we are going to present our lesson. It could be deductive, okay, inductive, and so on. Okay, the third one is feedback. Okay, giving feedback. Okay, how are you going to address questions? For example, how are you going to answer the given questions shown to you? And then replan. Okay, so replan. Okay, go back to your first step and then replan. Is it suitable? Is it applicable? Okay, is it good enough so that you can undergo or take the next step? And then reteach. All right, so you're going to reteach and then re-feedback. All right, so that is very important, okay, in designing a lesson. So these are my references. I hope you learned some today, and don't hesitate to ask me if there are clarifications regarding the test presented or prepared for you. Okay, so again, this is Mom Earl, and thank you so much for viewing. That's all for today.